David Bootle. I'm the Global Head of Corporate Marketing. I'm with Dan, our Global Head of Energy Services. Net Zero Week is a campaign of activity from the 17th of July, which focuses on the endeavour to reach net zero. I'm going to just have a really brief conversation with Dan about some of his thinking behind this.
Net zero is pretty simple. Net zero is when you're emitting carbon and you're removing carbon at the same rate. So the net amount of carbon is zero. Okay. So it sounds pretty simple, but right now, obviously, the carbon footprint of the Earth is about 51 billion tonnes a year. Right. So that's a lot of carbon that we need to stop. We need to stop emitting so much, and we need to start pulling carbon out of the atmosphere as well. Okay. So only at that point, when we're emitting and removing as much as we're emitting, that's net zero. That's the aim.
There's obviously actions that people can take, businesses can take, governments can take to reduce carbon, but there seems to be an element of removal as well, of actually extracting it. What can happen on that front?
There has to be some removal. We are working very hard. It's no point individual countries working very hard. It's got to be a global effort to reduce the amount of carbon we emit. But inevitably there will be a certain amount of carbon emitted. You're never going to get to truly zero carbon emitted. Impossible. So therefore the final part of the jigsaw, if you like, is taking the carbon out of the atmosphere. Carbon capture and storage you might have heard of, where they're pumping it underground out in the North Sea, is one element of it. That's perhaps the least advanced of the technologies, is the carbon capture. We're certainly a lot more advanced on the carbon emissions reduction. So the massive amount of work can happen right now. We've already got the technology in terms of reducing what we emit. We need to just start right now with all of the existing technologies that we've got. And then at some point we will realize, okay, we're at 51 billion tonnes now. Perhaps we'll get down to, wishful thinking from me, down to 1 billion tonnes. Then we've only got 1 billion tonnes that we need to remove from the atmosphere. But let's not get hung up on taking carbon out of the atmosphere. That's a real excuse that fossil fuel companies will grab onto, for example. They'll say, it's all right, we're going to pull the carbon out of the atmosphere. So therefore, we can still burn our fossil fuels. As soon as we start getting into that, the core message is gone. The core message is we need to decarbonise. We need to stop emitting. We need to stop burning fossil fuels. We need to go into renewable energy and everything else along with that.
So there are two things that struck me there. The first is you talked about reducing, and then you gave a figure, I think 1 billion. But what that indicates is that there's a journey to reach net zero 2050. How are we going to know we are getting close to the goal? I think we've already discussed, you and I, that the goal is achievable.
In terms of, there's a lot of things that everybody can do. Let's talk about businesses that we're most involved with. Fundamentally, they want to save money, they want to save energy, they want to reduce carbon. These are the things that businesses can do right now. And there's a lot of stuff that they can take on board. There's not just technology that they can bring in, high efficiency boilers, drives and stuff like that. They need to start measuring exactly what they're doing now. There's some new legislation, which is the SECR, Streamlined Energy and Carbon Reporting, which big businesses have to now put their carbon footprint in as part of their annual financial reports. And they have to compare against the previous year as well. So businesses now have a clear benchmark. They know where they're at now, and they have to report year on year. So businesses are under pressure to reduce, not just on the reporting side of things. Carbon taxes are only going to go one way. Carbon taxes are only going to go up. Simple as that. We need to spend money on the grid. We need to spend money on an awful lot of other stuff. So carbon taxes are going to go up. It's really going to be big users that are going to get hit the most. Traditionally, energy was an overhead. You got your bill and you paid it. Nowadays, energy, you can't see it as an overhead. It's a manageable commodity. You need to manage your energy. You need to proactively manage your energy moving forward. And that's what industries can do. And that's going to be a big chunk of this reduction. Obviously, there's the individual bit, there's agriculture, there's transport, there's all those other things that are just as important. But in terms of using less by industry, is a big chunk of those savings.
Well, I mean, that's a nice segue into our energy management systems, which helps businesses to proactively plan their carbon reduction. And it would be remiss of us not to talk about ClearVUE systems, and ClearVUE Lite and ClearVUE Pro. ClearVUE systems being the sort of hub of that intellectual hub almost. Can you expand a bit more on those and how they can help customers, maybe focusing on Pro?
Yeah, I mean, there have been different versions of different energy management, energy monitoring systems out for a while, you know, back to 20, 30 years, 40 years perhaps. They've always been a little clunky, not particularly dynamic, not particularly quick, not particularly real time. They're giving you fundamental data basically. But now with Clearview Pro, it's a bit of a step change. We're using big data now. The days of going into a company and looking at their energy consumptions and finding 10% gains there, 20% gains there, they're probably over. That's what I did 20 years ago, you know, near the beginning of my career. Now we're talking about smaller percentage gains, so you need bigger data, more better data analysis, more powerful data analysis to allow you to identify the smaller gains here, there and everywhere. We're building a lot of power into the back end with respect to financial part of energy. You can get some very complicated energy contracts and all of the different parameters are all built into Clearview Pro. Carbon is on there as a given. We've got live carbon footprints of absolutely everything we're monitoring. At the end of the day, and this is something I've used over all of my career, there's only three things you can do with energy. You can pay less per unit, which is what oil and gas and power do extremely well. You can use less units and you can use it smarter. That's it. Everything boils down to those three different things. So in terms of Clearview Pro, that's the use less energy and use it smarter. Use less, let's be more energy efficient. Let's identify where there's waste energy. Because we go down in a granular level, we can identify waste energy. If we can identify waste energy, remove it, save money, save carbon. And the use it smarter is very much about when you're using your energy, how you use your energy. Right, you've got processes, you need energy, we understand that. But can you use it smarter? Can you perhaps use it at a different time of day?
So from a customer's perspective, you've hinted there that they can proactively plan their energy use, and that might mean them shifting their, altering their production patterns.
Very simple things like we have a customer who's got big cold stores. They pick and pack and store fruit, and simply by not loading their cold stores at the expensive time of day, generally between 4 and 7, not loading them, i.e. keeping the door shut, then the refrigeration plant doesn't work as hard between 4 and 7. So they're going to save a lot of money potentially by doing that. They're not going to save carbon, to be perfectly honest, because they're going to use that energy at a different time of day. So they're going to use it at a different time of day. But potentially, if you bring renewable energy into the mixture, localized renewable energy, you may be able to get some benefits and reduction in your carbon in that respect. But using it smarter, using less is Pro is the tool that allows you to do that, and use that. Be proactive. Let's have some strategies and plans and load management plans going forward, and you've got the perfect tool to allow you to manage it.
It sounds like it's highly sophisticated, and I've seen it. It's obviously very clever, very responsive. Do you need to be an engineer to be able to use it?
There's parts of Pro that work for every part of the organization. You've got the full-on technical stuff, your reactive power and power factor, which is more for your engineering managers. Carbon, you can have all of your consumption patterns, everything in carbon, which may go to your sustainability guys, your marketing guys. A very, very powerful bit of Clearview Pro is the financial planning. So we can give you, we can calculate bills in real time for whatever circuits you want to look at, for whatever time period you want to look at. We can generate virtual bills. So there is a part of Pro that works for everybody. Everybody's got an interest in doing it. You know, the engineers reduce the kilowatt hours, which subsequently reduces how many pounds and pence the accountants have to pay and how many tons of carbon the sustainability people have to put on their reports. But it's very user friendly. It's not like a legacy system, which is generally a little bit clunky. Let's say it's very user friendly and very quick.
Which sort of customers will really benefit from Pro?
Anybody using energy at the end of the day. everybody using energy needs to reduce it.
Yeah.
So therefore you need a tool to help you reduce it. So therefore Pro is suitable for everybody. Clearview Lite, which is very high level, much easier high level system, but it's suitable for your smaller properties, your smaller users. Not as detailed, but it's detailed enough for them.
So I've worked with you for nigh on 3 years now, Dan. I got to know you fairly well, particularly the common cycling's thing that we've got going. I know you cycle in every day, but I know you have worked in the sort of energy efficiency, energy management field for 20 plus years all over the world. So it's something that it is not only something that you have a proficiency in through your expertise, but you have a passion for as well.
I know Net Zero Week is an initiative, and initiatives like this are great to get the message out there, because I'm engaged already. I have been for years and years and years. So it really is business as usual. I think the opportunity to spread the word is great and very, not just important, it's vital. You know, we've got no option. It has to work. There's literally no options, no plan B.
What's the biggest thing? What's going to be the most important thing in the drive towards net zero?
Like I said earlier, the Earth's carbon footprint is 51 billion tonnes a year. Yours and my individual footprint is probably about 10 tonnes. So whilst we can make a small difference, it really is a tiny little difference. Industry can make the big differences. So us as individuals, our tonnes that we can change is minuscule. So therefore the biggest thing that we can do is talk, make a noise, get the message out there. And by getting the message out there, we then get the message to your fossil fuel companies, your governments who need to change the way they're looking at it. So absolutely, systemic change is the way it will happen. Individual change is a very small part of that, but individual noise is the way that we can then influence the systemic change. That is the thing that will make a difference.
So I really hope you have enjoyed the conversation. We want to use this Net Zero Week initiative to really drive awareness and to really build a sense of collective passion to really push forward this initiative. We're delighted to be involved in Net Zero Week. We're delighted to be the principal sponsor.